Okay, Cecilia.
Pass the mic to Cecilia, who's got the mic up the back.
Alright, so we're going to talk to your spirit guides. Okay.
So Cecilia's question was, can you please talk to my spirit guides?
No, it's not.
Yes!
So
Pretty much.
the answer to that question is, yeah, let's do that.
They already came to me this morning, Cecilia, and this is what happened this morning too. They're very lovely. Hello. Maybe, oh gosh, this is tricky doing it this way.
Close your eyes and just let them know what they say.
Yeah. Well, we want to let you have your say, Cecilia. You can ask us anything. But we wanted to say how fun and exciting it is to be your guide. And we're so incredibly proud of you. And you're such a beautiful woman, and coming from our same culture, and we just feel that you are an inspiration, and that the main issue that you face is that you're hiding yourself, and you're stepping back from the leader that you were born to be. You know your faults, but you've got to stop using them as excuses. You have so much potential to be a woman of God on earth, something that we wish that we could have done. And we know what you are coming from, and you feel that it's too much to overcome, and we feel that you are perfectly able.
Can I add perhaps one of the only people from your culture perfectly able at this stage?
Yeah, we see you as the leader of, this is the, it's part of what is going to bring you so much joy. What you currently feel is so frightening is going to bring you the most joy. And we feel you're ready now. You're waiting to be ready. But we just see the joy that is waiting for you as you step into who you are. The person that God created with this beautiful spirit. And you already know that you've lived a life of adventure and change, and you already know that your heart feels called to certain things. But as we said, you're just using your fears as excuses at the moment. Okay, what do you want to ask us?
Hello. I've been praying for this moment. I've been praying for and connecting to you guys.
Yeah.
I've talked to you on many occasions.
Yeah.
I've tried to find ways to connect to you. I feel sometimes I'm so inadequate that I'm blocked to this connection that I should be born to have.
Yeah, and you have it. And it's the major thing that you are addicted to, is feeling that you are inadequate. It's the thing that is stopping you from reaching your potential. And you're someone who has so much curiosity and vigor and leadership, and the main thing holding you back is that you think that you can't do these things.
It's also too, isn't it, the feeling she has that her culture is so injured that it prevents her from doing these things in her culture.
Yeah. And that's the leadership we mean, that you are a leader within your culture. And we're coming from that same culture, although a couple of 100 years before you, which in reality it had its own challenges. And it wasn't until we reached the spirit life that we understood about God. And now we just see this incredible potential for God's truth on earth. And that you are the most qualified person.
I don't feel this way right now.
But that's what we mean. This is the you must have the courage to move beyond that belief. And we understand that many things in your upbringing and your culture have caused you to feel like you should be inadequate, and even as a woman that you should remain feeble in some way. But the reason it's so exciting to guide you is that it's bursting, the lack of feebleness is bursting out of you, and you're already so much more progressed than so many other women around you and in your family and in your society, and so capable in all the ways that you believe you're incapable, including connecting with us. We're often connecting to you when you feel inspired and when you have ideas, but it's this fear and the addiction to using the fear as an excuse that is getting in your way. We know it takes courage, and we know that there are generations of fears of violence that have come to you, but we also see that you can shift through these things, and we'll be helping you to stay safe as long as you are willing to feel.
I have come to realize fear is something I really want to focus on feeling. Although I'm feeling that right now, I really would like to get some assistance on feeling my fear.
Yeah, the one major thing you can do is to take the loving action that you already know, that you already feel called to. It's like a calling in you. You feel a calling to not only share God's truth, but express it in your life, express it through your person. And that self-expression in harmony with God's truth, if you can have the courage to do that, the fear will come out of you. You're trying to feel the fear, if we could say, in a safe way. Maybe that sounds contradictory.
And before she takes action.
Yes, you think the courage will come after you've felt the fear, but actually the courage will come in spite of the fear, and the courage will be the impetus to release the fear.
Do you understand that?
So meaning that I can be afraid, but I should still take actions. As I'm taking actions, I can let it overwhelm me.
Yes.
So if I don't take actions, I lose the opportunity.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we don't just mean, yes, physical action, but the action in your self-expression.
Yes, I'm afraid to do that because I'm often worried people will be. I often in situations where I feel there is something I wanted to say and correct.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I shrink myself. Sometimes I modify myself in order to say less compared to what I want to say to the full extent.
Yeah. And the more you start to say what you think already that you want to say, the more you'll find you have to say. And also, it's not just what you say, but there is a desire for loving expression inside of you. A desire to not just say the words of God's truth, but to express them through your being, through your presence. And don't diminish that in yourself.
So an example of that is like when you feel like you want to hug somebody, but they won't let you. Or
you're worried to do it. You feel like you want to express your affection for people, and you're worried to be open-hearted about those things. You also feel like you want to create more in your life,
Yes.
and you're not allowing yourself to really discover emotionally what you want to create. You're feeling frustrated, you notice, you feel like, oh, I'm not doing everything I could do, I just feel that, but you don't allow yourself to dream and imagine, or if you do, it's only to the point of your fear. And what we really want you to know is that you are capable of very big things, far beyond what you currently imagine. It's very exciting for us.
and you just feel more afraid.
I'm shaking constantly right now, but I'm so happy to finally hear your words.
Yeah.
I feel like so inadequately advised. Of course, Jesus and Mary, they are constant inspiration, but I felt like why there is this gift and I cannot benefit from it.
You need to trust more that you can feel us, and you need to.
Can I say, you at times think the connection is going to be intellectual in its nature, and what's actually happening is they are communicating with you very much more emotionally than that, like in terms of your feelings. And so this is why at times you believe that you're not really hearing them when you actually are hearing them in your heart. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah. You can live in your heart a lot more and trust that place. And we think that you understand what we mean by that. To come into that space where you feel everything, but you have passion and you have you feel tuggings in your heart. That's where you feel the most, and you've been trained to use your head, but it's not really got much control over you. You would like it to.
You have this heart drive,
Yeah.
to do things.
And this is where we touch you. This is where we communicate with you, and this is where, when you are wanting to feel inadequate, you stop trusting this heart, and this heart space that is very powerful and creative. And you need to let down the barriers of what it is you think you're going to create. Your mind can't really. It's
useless, really, it's useless. For me, I feel like sometimes if I go into my mind, one way I rely on it, on the other way I'm so frustrated with my mind. I feel it's useless and it keeps me down.
Yes,
And,
it keeps you small and constricted and in a box, and it keeps you thinking of things that you think would be reasonable to create, or that you might be able to do, and really, if you feel your heart, we don't even have to tell you, but we will be with you in this process. But your heart is going to drive things beyond even your culture. But this creative force within you, we just encourage you to embrace it now.
Okay. I have so much to ask, and now I don't know what to ask.
That's what happens.
Yeah. Well, we're not leaving you. So
I just want to say thank you for not giving up on me. I've given up on me so many times.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you, and thank you for loving me.
We adore you, Cecilia, and
It's a pleasure for them.
yeah, it really is, and we feel honor. You understand honor. We feel honor that we get to be a part of this precious time in your life on earth, and for the potential that you can step into.
Thank you.
Can I just say,
It's proud moment for us as Chinese women.
yeah. Cecilia, it's like for them, it's like there's very few Chinese women on earth who are not heavily suppressed, as you know. And to find somebody who isn't heavily suppressed and who hasn't allowed the suppression of their childhood, and then to be assigned to be their guide, and then to also watch the potential of what they could achieve because they are more emotionally connected than the average person in the culture. For them, it's like, this is like an honour for them to be your guides. You understand?
Yeah, and we know we have to go, but we just want to encourage you to trust yourself, trust your heart, trust your longings, and you already have longings, and not to let your own feelings of inadequacy stop you from stepping forward into a future that is very exciting and very adventurous. And we know those things make you come alive, and it's only fear. It's only fear, and on the other side of it is a very expansive future that will continue not just on the earth, but your whole existence. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
They are so beautiful, Cecilia. Just very. It's like the very gentle Chinese grandmas, and I know that might be strange. They're so soft, yeah. It's very nice. I just enjoy that.
It's interesting being someone's guide, because you can see all the potential, and you can also see where fear might be stopping all those potentials.
They're not taking any of your excuses.
Like when you say fear, they say, "What's fear?"
But also
just the feeling. You need
the
to feel.
inadequacy thing. That was the first thing that when I saw your question this morning, and I just immediately asked for them, and when they were there, and I was crying, and then they were like, her main issue is that she just wants to believe she's inadequate. You got to sort that out. That's you. Okay.
They came to us this morning when we were having breakfast.
Yeah. It's very nice. Okay.
Just to give me a bit of time to switch to another group.
Yeah, well, I had this question from Sanya and Diane, but it's it was funny because it's like both of you at once, what's my biggest issue, but you've got different guides. So they kind of came to me and I wrote some things down. So why don't I just tell you what they told me, and then if you want to ask questions, we'll try and tune into each one. Yeah, so there's more than one, but you know. Yeah. So Sanya, you asked what is the most important thing I need to work on, and they said your feminine expression, fully stepping into your feminine power. That includes your sexual expression and your creativity. And to give up the need for a man's approval for your feminine expression. And they brought my attention to your dad. Has your dad passed? No, but just the very, the high level of reserve, the way that he withdrew from your femininity has had an impact on you. Yeah, sort of a silent rejection, I suppose, of your very, and it's almost like I don't know what Diane thinks, but it's almost like you already feel quite connected to your femininity, to me, and they're like, no, it's nothing compared to where she can go. It's this very kind of allowing and accepting while creating a space that you have the potential to step into. That's lovely. Dan, so these guys were saying you need to look at your motivation for your ambitions. That there's this desire, there's a kind of judgment in you that's happening all the time. External, internal, that you're not very connected to, but it is happening and is driving some of your you sort of feel frustrated at times, but there is an arrogance and a superiority there that's coming from your relationship with your dad that you haven't dealt with, and it makes you want to perform in a way to almost impress yourself, impress him, and it also has driven this desire for there to be like a magical change or like an enlightenment moment. And I know that you're sort of intellectually shifted away from that, but there's still this feeling that I want to become like, yeah, I guess it's impressive to yourself, yeah. So, do you want to ask any questions on that? No, that's okay.
I don't know, Dion, if you actually get what was said there.
Is it a bit confronting to you, those things?
You know how you described to us when we were having lunch with you the experience you had, the sort of the drugged experience you had, and you actually liked it. You described it as if it was a major life-changing time for you. Do you remember that conversation?
Yes, it influenced my faith. I think that was like the biggest thing there.
Well, you think it influenced your faith in a positive direction, and it didn't.
Mm.
It didn't.
It gave, yeah.
It gave you more of a desire for magical change.
Rather than deal with this lack of faith that's very much coming in this relationship with your dad, and just this it's like a frustration with self, a frustration with others, a frustration, and
so you're looking for
a way out of
some magical way out of the situation emotionally that you find yourself in. And the trouble with that is that it's going to attract some, if you're not careful with that, it's going to attract some very dark spirits into your life, and it already has in the past. And it will continue to do so in the future. So it's fundamentally competition with your dad, proving yourself to other men, sort of thing. But at the moment, you don't recognise it as that. You're sort of you're trying to be you have the ambition of being sort of special or unique. But to get there, you want it to be some kind of magical change in moments to get there, rather than just some humble emotional work that needs to be done. And this is why you felt that time where you had the drugged experience was helped you have faith, that actually it established a bond between you and some darker spirits that actually is not going to be helpful for your progress in the future. So
yeah. And it's almost like what your guide was saying is like it's like, you've done work on yourself and you've sort of shifted in your life a bit towards, I want to be kind of a moral man. I want to be a loving man. I want to be like a sincere person, So your aspiration has sort of shifted over the course of your life to just be firmly there. But they're saying it's kind of tainted by this other motivation that's been with you right from this early age to get away from who. It's kind of like your upbringing gave you this message about who you were.
Or who you should be.
And you find it distasteful in yourself, like this sense of self, and it's like this motivation to get away from that, rather than the way you're actually going to become this sincere, solid, loving guy, is to really go back and embrace the little Dayan, if you like, who took on some bad messages about himself and really release those messages, so you have more of this self-acceptance. Is this?
Yeah, you have an internal shame about the true Dion.
Yeah.
That came from your childhood experience, and you are now acting them out. That's trying to get away from that Dion all the time, but. And for the most part, you're not even conscious that you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's a driven motivation. And the spirits who give you these magical experiences are trying to help you to do exactly that, to get away from the true you.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know how to connect to
this.
To the smaller child, that child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the issue.
That's the issue. Being distanced from sort of yourself as the child for such a long time, and also it's been quite pushy distancing as well. It's not only motivated by your own desire, but it's also motivated by father's desire, culture desire. Get away from the soft male Dian into this sort of more ambitious, driven Dian, which are actually not really at our.
Yeah.
How do you define driven?
It's not the drive. This is something your spirit friends want to say. Your drive is not a problem. It's the motive for the drive. Don't lose the drive. They love this about you. You know, you.
What I mean by driven is motivation for ambition. Motivation. It's driving you into a certain direction, which is anti-love actually. So that's what their concern is.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get something that maybe you can connect to more. But I think the reason, you know, because you said what is the most important thing to work on, they're like, right, let's get to the thing, because
it's also the thing you're the least conscious of.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the thing that you're going to be least likely to hear from them, basically.
How to become more conscious of it?
Well, I think you already are to a degree, because if you look at what you've been doing over the past few years of your life, you can see that you are you want there to be magical experiences of change. So you want there to be immediate enlightenment.
And you want to experience yourself as a loving person. You know, you want to be that person. It's just that at the moment you're trying to avoid this kind of self-hate shame thing that is in you, and you don't really acknowledge that it's in you. It's like you as you are right now have a superior feeling and a sort of a feeling of judgment and arrogance towards the person that you actually are. Yeah.
So you've got this sort of dichotomy, a separation occurring within your psyche, within your psychology. You've got this sort of separation occurring where the adult Dian doesn't really like the characteristics or feelings of the child Dian, and actually feels, I'm going to make myself into a better person than that.
Yeah.
I'm going to make myself into, and you don't realise that you're actually judging the real Dian quite heavily, and so I'm going to make myself into a better person than that, and then this attracts spirits around you who then say, yes, we're going to help you make yourself a better person than that, because we agree with you too, that child is a bit insipid, or they have these same judgments that many in your culture have towards true masculinity. They have a feeling that masculinity is big, tough, strong, direct, all these other sort of definitions of it. And so they're going to help you do that. They're also you have a desire to have a spiritual process in doing it. And so they're trying to help you have spiritual processes to actually accomplish that underlying goal, which is to really almost completely disconnect from your true nature and self, right? And so the problem with that is that if you don't stop that now, by the time you've passed, you won't even recognise this child Dian. You won't even recognise them, and it will take quite a long time if you don't address it now. It'll take quite a long time for you to recognise that you've distanced yourself from your real self, from your real nature and personality. So that's their concern.
What is the suggestion how to do that? What's the best way?
So
I think I've already said that.
Yeah. But definitely, you need more compassion for yourself. And one of the ways that you can do that is to notice where you lack compassion. You need to become more sensitive to that, where you lack compassion to yourself or others. At the moment, see, the issue they're saying is that you've been guided for quite a long time, so it's quite small, but you had natural love spirits doing it initially. and now you have divine life guides, but there's a lot of kind of training that the natural life spirits, some of them genuinely trying to help you because you have this aspiration to better yourself, but they kind of distance you from this shame type feeling that you have in you. So the key thing is to recognize the influences that are around you. You're very mediumistic also. Recognize the lack of compassion in yourself, and
recognize when you go into superiority and arrogance.
Yeah, notice that.
Because you don't see that.
No.
But if you can notice that, if you see that, you'll be able to see, why am I doing that? You'll start questioning. In that situation, why did I go into arrogance there? In your relationship, why did I go into arrogance there? You know, what's going on? What's causing me to go into this arrogance? It's always covering over a feeling of your own that you're ashamed of, that causes you to go into this sort of state of arrogance or superiority over partner as well as others.
Okay.
Yeah. So recognize the addiction to use techniques that are unloving, such as arrogance and superiority, and quick fixes.
Well, and that's the funny thing that you guys just said. They're like, dude, you're doing it now. Like, you just want to fix it now. Like, do you know what I mean? They're like, this is part of the issue.
How are you feeling right now is one of the things you do.
Yeah, like there's no tolerance for yourself to have a problem. And there's no sort of, you want to get it fixed straight away, but it's like being soft to yourself in that space and kind of opening up to, okay, I've got this issue, my guides have told me, I'm not going to fix it now. At this stage you don't really
believe you have it, but they're saying you have it, and they're trying to help you. The key is for you to go to yourself, they're saying I have it, so I need to at least be open to the fact that I possibly have it, given that they probably know me better than I know myself at this point. And then start from that position rather than starting from the position, I don't have it.
Or if I have it, I've got to get it fixed now. You know, it's just like become curious, become soft, become compassionate. These are all things that little Dayan needs. Yeah.
And there's a lot of emotions that are from your childhood that are getting masked and covered over and not dealt with because of the feelings you have when you're in the state you're in almost right now. Yeah. And there's a lot of feelings that are being covered over in that state. So and that's what they're concerned about. There's these feelings being glossed over that's not helping your progress.
Yeah. And you guys are like, you're a lot more playful. They're like looking forward to playful, Dayan. You know,
you're a lot less serious in your soul.
In your soul, yeah. And they're looking forward to doing it. Yeah. They're like very cash guys, actually. They're like, let's hang out, man. Like they're only like,
relax, man. Relax, man.
But and I say that they're also very compassionate for it. It was hard. It was hard when you were little, actually. Yeah. They feel compassionate for that stuff.
And is it true too that your father's history was involved in the war and Second World War and later wars?
Grandfather, but his influence on the father was really strong.
Yeah.
My feeling is like I didn't even have father. In a sense, he was absent.
Yeah. So you
haven't really had modeled to you in a good way what the positive expression of being a man is, and that you can be emotional and connected and gentle and
just the opposite of that. That was the model.
Yeah. And so like you guys are kind of proud of you already because you like you've made a will-based choice. I'm not doing that, you know. But
you're pretty harsh with your will, though.
You are. You're like, yeah.
Forcing myself to do this. I'm forcing myself to do that. That's it. Not gentle with yourself about this.
Yeah. So you develop the gentleness, and it'll and your wife is going to be such a help in that regard, given what they said to me about you. So yeah.
Yeah. If Sonia, you connect to your femininity, you need to allow yourself then to have arguments about the way he's expressing his seemingly masculinity, but it's not masculinity, it's injured. So you need to be able to stand up for that, you know, and that's one of the things they said is that because you want approval from the man, you have a tendency then to suppress your femininity so that he doesn't get upset or angry or that you don't feel any negative emotion from him.
Rejection is sort of rejection. You don't want to feel a distance. You know?
Yeah. Sometimes I argue, but maybe I cannot stand for that. Like.
So it's when you're at your wit's end, like when you're at the end of the line. That's when you argue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to be able to see the thing earlier.
All couples need to learn this, like have the argument sooner, and then it's not so.
Don't wait till it's dire straits.
Dramatic, because you're dealing with something. Here it is, and it's when you're both at the end of each other, or one of you is. It's yeah.
So the problem with arguing only when you've tolerated something, tolerated it, and weeks have gone past, you've tolerated it. As that happens, your feelings are building up, to a boiling. You see?
Yeah.
And so then by the time you start to express them, they're already boiling, and it's going to come out in all sorts of unloving ways probably, and then on top of that, a lot of times you're so upset by that stage that you're not even really clear about what it is that you're even upset about, because it's been weeks of boiling, over. And so one of the things everyone needs to learn to do is have honest conversations sooner, rather than waiting until you feel like you can't handle it anymore, and then have a conversation. Because the trouble with the waiting is that you've got the boiling emotions also boiling up and being held in during that waiting period. And so by the time you come to express what might be the truth, at the end of the day, you've also got all these emotions that you've been suppressing mixed in with that truth. And so sometimes it's very hard then to recognise what the truth was in what you're talking about now. But if you can raise these things as soon as you notice them, right, then it's much better for the relationship.
And usually we don't raise them because we want to avoid emotions, and then we get to the point where it's like, well, I still want to avoid the emotions, but it's just too much for me now. And then so you're not in a humble state anyway. It's much better to be humble sort of sooner and feel whatever comes up in those interactions. You don't get to that end of your tether place, we call it. Yeah.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Is there, how I understand, I can tap in my femininity through my creativity?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that like my pet or something?
And also honouring your feelings too. So, like, you often dishonour your feelings. So you might aim for a creative moment, but also let your emotion drive the creative moment.
Yeah. The way they showed it to me was more like you will become more creative as you embrace. It's like really coming to embrace, just like really experience yourself, so emotionally and physically. They stress this physical and sexual experience of yourself as well, and that what you're experiencing now is just far less than your potential.
You've almost been taught, haven't you, to have sex for the man's sake, almost, is the feeling they have.
Yeah, and that it's really yours to own, and your feelings are yours to own, and your personality is yours to own, and that this is going to unlock a lot more. You sort of feel a bit frustrated in creativity now, whereas it was sort of, it's a flowing state. It's like a flowing state they're encouraging you to go into. So not trying to limit yourself. It's this self-limiting that they're saying. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to thank my guides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. They're thankful to talk to you. Yeah.
Good enough.
And Alex, it just occurred to me to mention to you that it's similar injuries to Dayan in some areas there. There's this young boy, Shane, that you are doing and wanting kind of spiritual quick fixes away from that lad who needs your love, and he's been quite abandoned for a long time. Okay, what next is the question. There's a Daniela. There's two Danielas, isn't there? Yeah. Who asked about their dad?
Dad.
Yeah. I thought it was, because I was thinking, is this Daniela? I'm like, this guy's not Italian. I'm like, well, who is this guy? I'm like, maybe Daniela didn't have an Italian dad, but that's what it is. Yeah. All right, we'll try, hey? Daniela.
Maybe we explain. Daniela asked.
Oh, no, sorry. And she says, my dad died over 20 years ago. Can you check with him if he's doing okay? So the feeling hang on. He's a very reserved man on earth. Yeah. Sort of very stoic, very shut down, very like, not passionate. Yeah. So I'll try and speak from him then.
And we might be able to speak with him as well.
Yeah. He has some affectionate name for you that I can't say in your language, but it's like, hello, my sweet, my little sweet sort of thing. Yeah. It's good to finally speak with you, and I'm happy. I'm happy with you. I didn't tell you that, but I'm happy with you. You could say my life here is slow, and I feel I've been slow here. But I'm just happy. I'm happy with you. I want you to know I'm happy with you and your life. And I'm happy that you are somewhat happy.
But are you happy?
I can't say I'm happy. I felt it quite, I felt myself quite slow here. He keeps sort of stressing, it's very slow, he feels very wooden, very, almost like difficult to move in his body, you know. I see you and I see the earth and I see, but I don't do much here. I don't feel much here. I don't have much here. I feel what I had is on the earth.
His name?
Mio.
Mio.
Michael in German, actually.
Yeah.
Creation of Mio.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear my name. It's not that happy. I would like to tell you that I'm happy, but it's not that happy yet. I hope one day it will be happy.
Can I help you somehow?
I don't think you can. I don't know. I don't think you can.
But are you on the divine love path or no? Okay.
I don't know. I didn't know much about that.
Yeah, perhaps if you could talk a bit about what you believed just before you passed, and that might help to understand like why you feel the way you feel now.
Well, I feared just before I passed. I feared what would happen. I feared I would be nothing. I feared I would never see my family again.
Didn't believe in an afterlife either?
No. But I didn't know how to express even my fear to the people around me. I just went to my death in the way that I thought that I should. And it was good to know I wasn't gone.
Mm-hmm.
It was good to know
Still alive.
I could see my children. I could see things still.
Mm-hmm.
I was worried I would be in the ground. But I haven't really found myself in this life. I haven't found where I am or what I should do.
Mm-hmm. Would you like some help with that?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I'll ask somebody to come in.
I don't see many people.
No, but you better see him now. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. This is a man who can help you get from that wooden feeling you have, you know, that sort of detuned emotional state, and he can also show you where your home is and other things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll help you come to terms with why things have been slow.
Why have things been slow?
There's a number of reasons actually for yourself. One firstly is that you never had a definite belief when you were on Earth about what would happen when you die, and so now you've sort of just sat around waiting for somebody to tell you of what's going to happen, but you've never asked anybody what's happening.
And I feel very sad now.
Yeah.
Why am I so sad now?
Well, because the sadness you feel is regret about, you could have asked but you didn't ask, and these feelings of regret are sometimes tough to feel, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the key is to let yourself have them, you know. Feelings of regret, they're not permanent. If you let yourself have them, they will pass. And then, you know, but the man I've just introduced you to he will be able to help you sort of get through this sort of wooden phase you feel in yourself and soften to the feelings you actually have. So a lot of times we hold ourselves like a tight ball, you know, we hold our emotions in check, and this is something you've done all your life on Earth. You held your emotions in check.
Yes.
And you held everything in containment.
Yes.
And so when you passed, although your circumstances changed, you still continued to hold yourself in containment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And because of that, you didn't even think to ask somebody for help, or you just thought, this was my lot in life, hold myself in containment more, still keep doing the same thing. I don't really know where I am and what I'm doing because I don't really, no one's taught me anything. And in that state, there's a tendency to never ask either. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And now you have that spirit man who's come. He's going to be your friend. He'll help you. He'll help you sort of try to release that containment that you've placed upon yourself in your life, and particularly containment on your emotions, you know, that you have. And he's going to try to help you break through there, so that you can feel some drive for a future life, rather than just accepting the life that you feel was allotted to you.
Yeah. I thought strongly I should accept what life
where you are
hands me.
Yeah.
But if I leave the earth,
you can come back anytime. See your family.
You have to make. Thank you for bringing me to my daughter.
Yeah.
Make sure she knows I love her.
Yeah. No, she knows. But also she loves you, and she wants you to be happy as well. Right? Yeah. And also, the more you progress in the spirit world, the more freedom you will have to come back to Earth whenever you want to have a visit. You know, see how the family's going, see how the daughter's going. You can go back to where you were, and it's very important you learn new things, because when your daughter passes, you'll be able to teach her things that she doesn't know, you know, that you didn't know. But now you're in a state where you can learn those things, aren't you? So you can learn them and be open to learning new things and having new experiences. And this would be very different to you because when you're in life on earth, you just thought, oh, well, I landed in Croatia, this is my life and this is what I've got to put up with, and sort of like a acceptance inside of you that has grown into immobility, not becoming immobile.
Yeah.
So that if you can change that, then things will change a lot for you in your progress in the future.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So listen to the man who's come to you, and he'll help you.
Thank you so much.
He loves you, and
I love him.
He's very strong.
He's
feeling for you.
he's had a bit of a hard time the first 20 years of his life because he's kept himself just locked up in just waiting for some revelation to occur that never came.
And feeling he feels quite attached to you.
It meant he'd become quite earthbound as well because he didn't know what else to do.
But the main thing was just feeling locked up emotionally, not feeling. But then as soon as the man came, lots of feelings started flowing in him, and then he was, that's good. That's good.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
It's good to have your dad.
It's so sweet. Okay. All right.
Olga, one last question.
Olga's question is, I don't have any question. But then you guys came and said, well, can we talk to Olga? So I said, okay. Hello, sister. Thank you for making time for us in your life. We know you're doing that, and it's a pleasure to be with you more often when you're conscious of us. And we know you have frustrations, and we know you have rages, and we know you feel a bit messy and imperfect lots of times, but we see you in a process of change, and we invite you to invite us more often and to pray. What do you want to ask of us? Even though you said you have no question.
The name, so maybe I know, because I often have difficulties to know when they're here or not.
Yeah.
And I wonder why that is.
It comes from a feeling of hardness in your heart towards love. Mm-hmm. Our main desire is to love you and to help you open to love again. But often you harden yourself in a self-protective way, and then you don't sense us so much. We're from your heritage, so also German, also Austrian. This heritage.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you to remember how is your dad? How does your dad feel about spiritual things?
I would say he's open, but more esoteric.
Yep. Is he open to your emotional expression?
No.
No, it's more not how does he feel about spirit, it's how he feels about you. Yeah. This is a big block to you, and also your mother, actually, just both. You feel like there's a bubble of oil inside of you about you can feel injustice, and it's important to you, but it's like you're afraid to let the lid off and just have all of your feelings, and some of it will be angry and frustrated and sad and scared, and it will all come out at once, and you're afraid of that happening. But we're confident. We're confident you'll be fine.
Your father doesn't like emotional mess.
No, he doesn't.
No.
And you judging your emotional messiness.
Yes.
And we don't see a mess. No. No. And we also see the clearing up is going to be, good.
Got to let everything go where it goes.
Overdue. Yeah. You've been knowing what you need to do for a while, and but you're trying to come at it little by little, and if you just let it all, it's your part of your nature is very it's like extreme, but it's not in a negative sense. It's like the reason you feel like sometimes I have no questions, I can't feel anything, is because you're shutting down your emotions, and when you have your emotions, it's intense. It will be intense, and you're quite frightened of that, and so you shut it down, and then there's nothing works, nothing happens. But it's being brave to be the strong woman that you are, which is very kind of an electric fire of emotions that initially will be quite lots of volcanic eruptions, but it'll get cleared out, and then you'll feel like this it's like a rushing waterfall of pure water, and so it's coming to terms with this part of your nature that is very that will help you so much, and you'll feel us when you trust that process more. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're not going to hurt people.
Okay, yeah, that's my concern.
Yeah. You're not. It's not in you to hurt. It's not a danger we feel that you will hurt people. It's not.
That is more likelihood of you hurting them doing what you're currently doing.
Yeah. Trying to keep the volcano under wraps, it gets more dangerous.
Okay.
There's more earthquakes and people getting injured. You know, you have enough ethics that you're not going to harm people. Yeah, we're glad to speak with you.
Thank you.
Please keep calling on us.
Have you got any questions for them?
Yeah, do you know the name of them? So.
Names is tricky.
Particularly in different languages.
It's like an N sound. It's German though. Woman. There's 2 women and a man.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I don't know the names.
Doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
are they in the divine truth?
yes.
Okay.
They're like.
But they're also saying, of course, that's why you're here.
That you can trust a lot more. That you know us, you know the feeling of us, and you know our way of communicating, like our style. It's similar to your own.
And just one more question: how my mom is, or our mom, because she died.
Yeah.
Many years ago.
She's having some hard times with her grief, but she is in her grief now, so that's a good thing. Initially, she was trying to hold it all in and trying to kind of make change in herself without just allowing the grieving process. She had to go through what you both have to go through now, of this acceptance of your grief. But for you, Olga, there's this flavour to your nature which will make it go quick,
Easier.
as long as you surrender to it. Yeah. Yeah.
Your mum's more stoic,
Yeah.
so she's finding it harder.
But she has started to connect to her grief, and as she softens, she'll be around you more.
Thank you very much.
Mum's in the first year.
Yeah, but not in a
Not in a terribly bad place,
place,
but just
yeah.
a very emotionally, she's just coming out of a very emotionally shut down place in the first year.
And lots of sadness now.
Yeah. So now she's softening to her feelings and sadness, and so that's meant that she's moved from that shut down place. Like before, it was more like an ice block place, and now there's some warmth and light entering her life, but because she's been shut down on Earth quite a lot, quite shut down emotionally. She's just getting used to expressing sadness and actually having emotions that are more real when she's out on Earth. Which on Earth mostly it was just sort of anger.
Yeah.
That was sort of like suppressed anger.
Yeah, lots of anger initially.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olga. I like meeting all your guys. They're like different flavors of fun.
Different characters.
Characters, yeah. I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the leadership questions we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any questions any of you would like to ask on that? Yes. If we go, actually, Eric.
Eric?
And then, yeah, so Eric.
After experiencing this, I asked myself, how can I connect with my guides and my guardian angel, and what's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the role of your guardian is to basically protect you. So they're trying to help you live as long as possible on Earth, so that your incarnation, you could say this is like the kindergarten of life, and they're trying to help you live as long as possible to learn as much as you can during this phase of life. And their role is to protect you from danger. Does that make sense to you? So that
Only one?
Well, generally it's one, yes, and in your case it is one, yeah, and generally it is one. And their role basically is trying to get into your head whenever you're in danger. That's their primary role. Like, stop, don't do that, watch out, you know, that kind of thing.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea, don't go there, you know, that kind of thing. They're trying to protect you in different ways, sometimes spiritually, but most of the time physically. Yep. They recognise that spiritual protection is very much dependent upon your development and your desires. So there's little they can do to protect you spiritually, there's more they can do to protect you physically. Does that make sense? Yep. Your guardian, your guide, on the other hand, sometimes will change, and yours have changed actually.
Pretty recently.
Pretty recently actually, yeah. And your guide is more about what it is you want to do for your spiritual development, and the right person comes along to help you with what you want. So prior to hearing Divine Truth, you wanted sort of like an esoteric development, like intellectual, sort of New Age, almost philosophy attracted to, and your guide then was was on the natural path, but more interested in those things. When you heard Divine Truth, and then you thought, maybe this is the better course of action, because you had that sort of internal decision, and you probably can remember sort of when you had that. And at that stage, your new guide, who you don't know very well at this stage, came to you to help you on that path.
And how can I connect with them in this process?
Well, it's not that there's a set of like
rules.
A checklist, you know, or rules. They are going to be like similar to your guardian. They're trying to encourage you towards things that are good for your spiritual development,
But morally good, and good for your relationship with God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than like with your guardian, he's trying to encourage you more into what's good for your body and what's, you know.
Yeah.
that kind of-
Yeah. And sort of influence and inspire you towards things that are good for your spiritual future. But that each person is going to have different ways of really sensing their guides. And I feel reticent to, like the way that I connect to my guides is going to be different. We have different natures, and sometimes we have different openness as well to different, like some people do initially have quite an intellectual connection with their guides. Their guides can sort of influence their thoughts and help them reason about things sometimes. Sometimes people feel there's a feeling sense. Sometimes people almost see signs, if you like, which is really the guide causing you to notice something and that you've given significance to. Divine love guides are less into that. They less do the signs thing. But yeah.
The biggest way a divine love guide influences you is through your emotions. That they are already connected to their emotions and their passions and their desires, and their goal is to connect you to your emotions and your passions and your desires. And so they would prefer to not communicate with you via your mind, and they would prefer to communicate with you via feelings. You know, though, in the past you've had a very strong tendency to have it via the mind, right? Yeah. So this is what they would like you to soften to your feelings more, and to soften to the inclination of your feelings more, so that they can influence those feelings when you're having them into a right moral and spiritual direction. But,
Yeah.
you just felt a bit of their influence right there, right? Yeah. Yeah. So you know what it's going to feel in that experience. You get to feel what it's going to feel like. Yeah. And,
but the issue with your guides is they're not going to overcloak you. They're not going to give you like experiences or
nothing magical.
Magical things. Yeah. And the desire for that often opens you to spirits who are willing to enter codependent addiction with you. And this is where we see a lot of problems on the earth too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the past you've been tempted to connect with your mind and also almost like a spirit to tell you what to do and, you know, direct your life and things like that. And they don't want to do that. They want to help you develop your own will to do things. And the only way they're going to influence you is go, your will wants to do this. Feel it. They're going to want you to feel that your will wants you to do this, rather than sort of interfere with your mind and try to get you to do things without you recognising your will to do it. In the past, the spirits have been with you have done the opposite to that almost. They had a sort of plan for you, and they decided they wanted to influence your mind along that plan. What's the time now? Just let me. Yeah, it's good. We probably want to finish this now because we don't have a lot more time with you, because we need to finish probably by 3. How many of you are busting to go to the toilet? Should we have 5 minutes and just so you can go to the toilet? And then what Mary and I would like to do is talk to you about our plans. Okay, is everyone? Yep. Okay, so what we want to do now, this is the end of our time with you. There you go. So, there you go. Time goes pretty quickly when you're having fun, or very slowly when you're not.
Has it been quick or
this
slow?
was very slow for you. That means you probably weren't having much fun. But we wanted to talk to you about our immediate plans. So, in terms of what we wanted to do in terms of Divine Truth, but also we needed to probably answer some questions you might have about what we're doing in Australia, what our plans are around different places around the world as well, plans that we have to do a little bit of online stuff so that you have if you have questions in the future, or a group of you has questions, you have the opportunity to ask those questions and things like that. So, but our very immediate plan is next Tuesday, which is this walk from Fultness.
Well, yeah, Fultness. There's a what do you call it? A lift.
There's two lifts that
Two
go
lifts.
halfway up and then full way up. What's the name of those?
Schlick 2000.
Yeah, sleep. It sounds so cool.
Yeah, 1 and 2. Yes. The other ones. If we sort of gather, I don't know, you've been there, is there, there's an area where we could just gather before we get on the lift?
Yeah, like very big.
Where you have to pay, do you know what it costs?
Yeah, it's not quite, it's 30-40 euros around.
Oh, that's pretty pricey.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've got a free pass.
We do have a pass,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
But on a group, it's a little cheaper. So,
Okay.
Oh, okay, so we do it as a group maybe,
Okay.
yeah.
If that's the third bit, I didn't realise it was that much.
Yeah.
Everything
Maybe we could,
here seems to be a long yeah.
Jay, maybe we could just do this walk that Ben was telling us about that doesn't have a lift, this one here.
That's further up the valley.
Yeah, so you still have to pay a toll to get there, but.
to the Sutzenau, you mean?
Yes,
At
yes.
is it the Grada Ward?
Yes, Grava was it, yeah.
Yeah.
So people could,
You
don't
don't
have to
pay
pay,
there.
yeah.
But you have to pay still to get up the hill, don't you?
Just
It's
the-
only €3.50 though,
Yeah.
$3.50.
No.
The toll
At the
rate.
toll.
The-
At the
the-
toll.
Ah, they didn't burn them out.
You
Yeah,
need to pay the
yeah,
toll, which is $3.
If you catch a bus there,
You can go by bus, yeah.
Yeah, you can go by bus.
Yeah.
So that might be better for everyone, right?
I think so,
Yeah,
yeah.
so other than €40, that sounds alright.
So we could gather at the parking lot
Yeah.
at
Will the,
is it Grada
we are butchering the German. Can you? Here, you go see.
Yes.
Yes. Can you announce where we're
What's
meeting?
that called?
Grava. Grava.
Yes.
Yeah.
Grava?
Grava Alm, yes.
Yes, yeah.
At 10 o'clock?
There's a parking lot there. What time do you reckon reasonably, you don't want to stress yourself out in the morning if you...
Yeah. So we'll
10
meet
o'clock is reasonable?
Yes.
10 o'clock there on Tuesday. Do you want to just write Tuesday?
We will see you there,
If you
barring
want.
any unforeseen occurrences.
And there's a walk to be had, and then if everyone just wants to bring some picnic lunch to share or something, we could sit somewhere and have
Yeah,
something
and
together.
it might pay we take the gentle walk. Many of you probably wouldn't have hiking boots and all that, right? So just sneakers. There is that part of the walk that is not as steep, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So if we'll appoint Ben as our.
Are you coming? Can you come?
Yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, we can. You can show us which way to go. Yeah.
Do you want to? Okay. Everyone knows. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's 45 minutes by car. You can come to me afterwards and I can.
Any details they
Yes,
need?
yeah.
You'll be able to tell them any
Yes.
details?
How to get there and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be
Is it 45 minutes? Because we go past. Is it further down? Or not?
It's way further down.
Yeah.
Yes,
it is.
this valley is really
Yeah,
long.
it's a long
Yeah.
drive. And by bus, it's probably more like an hour or so or
Yeah.
more, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
you would have to stop on the way.
Yes.
So it might be quite a bus trip, although I think there are some express buses up there from this train.
Yeah, I think every bus express they go to the motorway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's anyway more than 1 hour.
And is there a train up there too? No train up there.
there.
Yeah, no train up there. Anyway, you can check with Ben with the details. He's done it a few times, I gather. Yeah. Okay, so that'll be good. We catch up with you there if you're sticking around. And what we wanted to do though is just talk to you a bit about our plans and what we've been doing in Australia for quite some time now, for the last 5 or 6 years, so that you have a bit of an idea of what our plans are in different places of the world as well. So in Australia, nearly it was probably 7 years ago now, we started a non-profit organisation called God's Way. God's Way Limited, it's called. It's an Australian non-profit organisation, and Mary and I are the founders and founding members, but we're not the directors of the organisation. We were for a while, but we've found some people who we feel are of good spiritual development, who we can trust while we're travelling, and those 3 people are managing that organisation in Australia. And that organisation has a number of, at the moment, 4 different properties, but we're trying to sell 1 property so that we can build our first auditorium. Right? And our first auditorium that we're trying to build in Australia is an open air auditorium where we can fit 120 people, but also have some toilets and other things that we need to so we can run events like this. But probably be open air in the sense that, for a while anyway, it'll be open air so that whatever the weather is, well, that's what we'll be feeling.
It doesn't get cold like it does in Austria. In Australia.
That's right.
Well, not where we are anyway.
Yeah, sometimes we get cold winds, but it never goes in that place generally, except in the mornings. It never goes minus Celsius. It's always positive Celsius. And during the summer, of course, it's more like 40 or 35 Celsius. So plenty warm enough to hold events and things like that. So this organisation we started because we wanted to do a number of things with people, and one of the things that we wanted to do was to help people who visit us to have a practical way to learn about where they're not being humble. So we have what are called these humility in practice days. And depending on how many visitors we have and whatever, we often have them anywhere up to 5 days a week, every week. So Emma has been there. So if you put your hand up, Emma. So Emma's experienced a little bit of it over the last few months, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, we've had visitors. Yor has also, so up the back there. He has experienced it well. I think you were there for 3 or 4 months, weren't you? Yeah,
3 months.
3 months. Yeah, so you sort of get to know the experience and so forth of, having some feedback, very frequent, generally feedback, and dealing with things as you're working. And a lot of the programs at the moment are environmental in nature, so we're fixing the environment, and in the process of fixing the environment, we're trying to fix people's humility as well. Does that make sense?
Help them.
Help them become more humble. So its major purpose at this stage is educating a person about the very first quality that you need to develop, which is that humility quality. And that's been the focus. But of course, there's other goals, and some of those other goals include eventually having a place where we can meet regularly in Australia. And it's our plan in the future that we would set up eventually these particular sort of what we'd call learning centres. We're calling them God's Way Learning Centres, so learning about God's Way as a centre. And we're hoping to have some of these around the world. At least one in Europe, at least one in each continent. In the end, is our desire. Where when Mary and I do travel, we will eventually travel to those locations, and that'll be our primary location of teaching. Not the only location, but because we'll still travel to other places, but it'll be our primary location of teaching, hopefully, when we travel. So that's our goal.
There's a lot of benefits to having a venue that we don't have to hire, we don't have to book, that we can just use whenever we desire or whenever a group of people want it. And we could leave it with equipment and everything so that we literally just have to come and see everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, and to give you an idea of what happens when we travel, we do end up spending quite a lot of money, as you can imagine. There's flights from Australia to get to Europe, firstly, and then of course we have to get another flight to get to the location in Europe. Also, we've got to hire the venue. So to give you an example with this particular venue, this venue cost us, I think it was 15, a total, with the speaker hire, which was a separate hire and everything, it's around about 1,400 euros for this hire for the 3 days. Now that is a very reasonable price, actually. We've had some venues quite as 10,000 euros and things like that. So 1,400 euros is about as reasonable as we could find in Austria, to be honest. So a venue around about this size, which is around about allowing for up to 60 people or so, generally costs us around that amount. And Mary and I try to reduce the costs of the venues, because if we can do that, then the shared cost of the venue is not so high, right? When the shared cost gets up to 40 or 50 euros per person in some venues, which are wanting to charge like 120 euros per person per day and that kind of thing, it becomes very prohibitive for people to come to a free event. We're holding a free event and it's not really free anymore because it's so much, it costs so much, you know. So what we try to do is we try to reduce the cost, but obviously, you know, we pay those costs. So an example of this venue, we're paying around about 1,400 for the venue. Mary and I have accommodation. It's around about the same figure for the accommodation for the time we're staying. And then we also had to hire a car to get from Munich in this case. And so that has also cost us a similar amount again. So by the time you're done, most places we go to, without our food or without anything else, are usually costing us around 4,000 to 5,000 euros for every place we visit. And as you can imagine, Mary and I don't have, you know, we live by donations, so we're very reliant on your donations, and it's thanks to your donations for the large part that we're here. But I must point out that the donations that for us to get to Europe were, a third of the donations came from Australia. So they actually gifted money, even though they weren't going to personally benefit from you hearing this. They felt that you should have the experience, and so they contributed. And another third, or not quite a third, came from Mary and myself. Actually, we've been trying to save up for a while to build a house for us, because we're gifting our house to God's Way Limited. We're gifting it to be used as the office.
So some of you who've been to our property would know, but most of you haven't. At the top of our property, there's the studio where we've filmed a lot of the
Q&As that
you've seen.
Yep.
And that's sort of purpose built, and it's bigger than our house. Well,
Yeah.
it's about, yeah.
It's a little bit bigger than our house.
Yeah, bigger than our house, and our house is directly next to it. So,
yeah. So we have a 2-bedroom house that's about 86 square metres or something like that. It's quite small. It's smaller than this room, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where we live, but because we still want to have some privacy and do our processing, and God's Way hasn't had an office at all. It's been in
for the last 7 years.
It's been in Eloise's lounge room.
Yeah.
We decided, well, it's a great idea. People can use the studio a lot more in God's Way
if we're not there.
If we're not there, they won't disturb us, and they could make our small home into an office. And if we just built something further back on the property, we'd still have our privacy, and but operations could expand in God's Way, which is what we want to be able to happen.
We want people to be able to come there and do things like video editing or audio editing, and also some translation and other things like that, without them thinking about bothering Mary and I every time they come. And also Mary and I, because we have a goal that we want to travel 6 months of the year, 4 months overseas and 2 months in Australia every year from now on. So that's our goal, so that we get to see you more regularly. You know, it's been quite some time since we saw anybody overseas, aside from when they visited us. So what we've done is we've changed our sort of life around a fair bit, where we're no longer the directors of God's Way, and that's other people are responsible for that now. And we still have meetings with those directors, and we mentor those directors, but we are not involved in the day-to-day running of the God's Way organisation anymore. But it is an important organisation for us, because we're still founding members, we're still members of the organisation, and anybody in the world can become a member, but there's certain criteria to become a member. And those criteria has a lot to do with what we've been teaching you, you know, that you're humble and you're truthful and loving and you've received some of God's love and things like that, and have a desire to serve other people rather than just to get for self. And so we have a sort of, you could say it's a program where we have people just working who participate, and then some of those participants, if they grow in love and they grow in desire and passion, they become volunteers. And so we have a number of volunteers now that are volunteer. I can't remember how many. I think it's about 12 or 15 or something like that, isn't it?
At the most,
Sort of
yeah.
12, I think, something like that. There's probably 30 or 40 who participate regularly every week, and then there's about 12 that are volunteers. And then once you've worked through becoming a volunteer and you just and worked through your stuff about being a volunteer and things like that, and have some passion, then often we appoint them as you can apply to be a member. And a member is a financially contributing person. It's $100 a year, so it's not very much. Or $100 a month, sorry. Not very much, but it's enough to keep the company, the basics of the company running. The company costs around 60,000 Australian dollars a year to run because it has 4 properties that it has to pay for, and it has around about, at the moment, about $2.5 million of assets, of which we're getting rid of some so that we can build a hall. So that's all of those assets, and absolutely every one of those assets has been gifted. So nothing's been earned or anything. They've all been gifted from different people. Some people have gifted significant amounts. Mary and I gift to the organisation all the time, and many of the directors have also gifted to the organisation all the time. But on top of that, we receive gifts from other sources, and any person in the world can give it a gift, and that gift will be used for that purpose of helping people develop the humility, and also for the purpose of trying to help share. The focus is sharing God's truth on earth. So that's the focus of the organisation, God's Way.
We should say as well that there's quite a large-scale environmental recovery thing already happening on a couple of the properties.
Yes,
as well.
we have a 22-tonne bulldozer and a 22-tonne excavator, and those things are being used in the recovery process, so that instead of being used to destroy the land, they're being used to recover the land. And already we've recovered around 7 acres, 8 acres, or maybe even 10 acres nearly now, of land where it was completely bare land before, and now there's trees up to, probably up to 8 metres high. This has happened over the last 7 years. And what we've done is we've also worked on finding methods to recover land very quickly, particularly in arid environments. So the environment that was there before, if you looked at it on Google Maps, you'll see that it was completely barren of vegetation for nearly 12 years. And now we have, like I said, about 8 metre high trees on that same land. So things have changed quite a lot, and we've worked out many very good techniques for recovering the environment and other things like that. And as we've recovered the environment, the insects have come, and the birds have come, and the animals have come, and it's a whole ecosystem that's getting built actually, and it's really fascinating to watch what happens to it every year, because it just develops more and more and more every year, where there's more and more abundance, and it develops every year. So that's what the dozer and the excavator are being used for primarily. We also have, other things that have been donated, like there's a big farm tractor. So when I say a big tractor, it's only a 100 horsepower tractor, but it's big enough to do the jobs. We also have a big farm trailer, which is a 12-tonne trailer, so it means we can shift soil around and move everything around. So it's a proper operation, right? Like a fairly big farm. At the moment, God's Way is responsible for about 1,000 acres of land. So that's a fairly large allotment. Now, God's Way, the intention of God's Way in the future is to become more and more focused on sharing and using these tools that we've got, all of these implements, and to actually share not only about God's truth and not only about having these humility and practice days, but also share information about things like how to recover the environment and how to improve other things like that. So there's a fairly wide scope of goals, and I think online in the God's Way website, which I should probably mention, it's godsway.net. I think you can actually download the constitution of the company and read the constitution, and you'll see its goals.
And you can also download sort of annual reports that we've done the last few years to see pictures and descriptions of what we're doing.
Yeah. So you'll see there's a lot of activity going on there, and we've had that activity going on for now 7 years. So it's pretty well established activity now, and it's going quite well in terms of helping people grow, you know. And if you look at this website, you'll see all the activities of that God's Way organisation. And Mary and I are pretty passionate about that organisation, like in terms of helping it progress and helping it grow, and also sorting out any problems as to why it's not progressing as well. So that has taken up a fair portion of our time over the last 6 years or so. On top of that, Mary and I run all of their tech. So I do all their tech work. So
you say you.
Yeah. So we're talking the storage of nearly a petabyte of data at this stage that hasn't been edited. There's a large amount of data and a large amount of storage. You're talking just in terms of storage, it's nearly $250,000 worth of equipment just to store the data.
Which was all donated as well.
Which has all been donated as well. Yeah. So it's a fairly big sort of operation, and we're trying to streamline it in such a way that more sharing can happen. Because at the moment we're just sort of we're collecting lots of data. There's photos of all the growth of everything, the trees, the plants and everything, the bird life. There's photos of what we've done, all the projects we've done. And we'd like to share all that, but of course there's nobody, we haven't got enough people who are in a good space of development to actually put all the data together and share it all and all those kind of things. So we need just more people who have good development to share all those things. But we're pretty close to geared up to share. So it's just a matter now of finding the people, right? And really we've done it the wrong way around. We should have found the people first. It's gone. You know, people have donated funds, so we've got things and got things set up. But it probably would have been better if we found the people first. Then we would have been able to, get a lot more things done. But at the moment, the sharing is going, it's happening, but it's sort of like nowhere near the capacity of what we could be sharing. But that being said, it's a wonderful project, and Mary and I have been enjoying it a lot. But also it's been very busy, as you can imagine, setting up all these things, the tech and the properties themselves. There's 4 different properties at the moment, looking after them and caring for them and running programs where people can work on them and things like that. And it takes quite a lot of organisation. But our goal is to have one of those in every continent. So what we need first was to set up one where we're living, or near where we're living. It's about 5 kilometres away from where Mary and I actually live. And so that we could teach people what to do, how to run it, and all those other things, so that when we set up in another country, we've got a group of people who can go to that country and help that country set up as well. Does that make sense? So that's the goal. And it's a sort of a slow process because it's a lot about people's hearts, it's got to be motivated sincerely. We're not interested in it being a quick thing. We're not interested in it being something where people get arrogant and think they're going to be the solution to the problems or anything like that. We're more interested in it being a heartfelt growth that is motivated by the hearts of people. So that's our goal. And
in future years, if we come back, well, we plan to come back annually if we can.
If we can, but that's dependent upon donations, of course.
But certainly some of the directors of God's Way are already really excited to come with us. and do humility and practice days with people who come to the talks, and maybe give you some presentations about projects that have happened and the spiritual lessons that were learned in doing the projects. So they're all very excited to do that and to meet all of you. It was a bit, a lot of them wanted to come with us.
On this trip.
Yeah, so they could meet you and
We're not really yet geared up for some of them to come because if they did come, then we'd need another group of people left over back home. And we haven't yet found another group of people who we can trust as well as we do trust their current group of people who are running the organisation.
While we're on this trip, they are building a very large water catchment shed while we're here.
So 25 metres long, 10 metres wide, 150,000 litres of water. In Australia, water is like precious, particularly where we live. We don't get much of it per year. And we use it for drinking. The water we catch, we drink, we use it for showering and all that kind of stuff. So we need a water catchment area because God's Way is using more water because there's more people there, so we needed to do that. And so I designed that before I left, and I actually, Mary and I paid for it as well. And then we've given it to the team, and they're hopefully building it. We don't know how far they've got. I'm not sure how far they've got, but I think they're having a bit of engineering issues because there was a few engineering issues before I went away that I had to resolve, and they're just implementing my resolution to those engineering issues now. But once they've done that, they'll be building it. And we'll have new water storage so we can have more people come. So one of the goals in our studio is that we can have a regular 40 people come every week to the studio while we're there. And also that God's Way can run smaller events where they do small presentations in that studio as well. So, as well as be the office and do all of the data sharing and all those kind of things. So that's the goal of God's Way. Mary and our main focus is Divine Truth, and we have an organisation called Divine Truth Proprietary Limited that Mary and I own. We're the only ones in it, but God's Way, we expect eventually to have thousands of members. We're hoping, like all around the world, and eventually have you could say, I suppose in each continent at least. A God's Way limited in each continent. That's the end goal. With the same goals, with the same structure, with the same focus on spiritual development, that kind of thing. And eventually we expect people may live there, but at this stage our focus is more just making it a centre for learning rather than people living there. So that's our goal. So, is there any questions about that before I proceed with what plans we have about that?
And when you say gifting, is it better to donate or ask for specific things you would need?
Sometimes there are things we need, like an excavator or something like that, and people have gifted like a second-hand excavator and a second-hand dozer. And sometimes we have expenses on those equipment, and people give some money to pay for those expenses. So just recently, our excavator needed new tracks, because it's done so many thousand hours of work now. It needed new tracks, and so the new tracks cost about $22,000. So, somebody donated the funds to do that as well. And there was also some damage to the excavator boom that was done. We don't know how it was done because it wasn't done by any of us. So it must have been done when we put the excavator in to get the tracks. But nobody owned up to it. But we had to fix it so that somebody donated towards that. And so there are projects you can donate towards. There's just a general expenses you can donate towards. There's also time, your time and energy, which is really appreciated as well. Like, just going there for a few months if you want to go there and have the experience. We are not yet really geared up to accommodate people well at this stage, but there's a lot of ways in which you can participate. And we're hoping that if we set these things up in like one in Europe, for example. At this stage, our feeling is sort of between, probably the border between Spain and Portugal, somewhere in that region. You know, that we can get the same thing running there, but it's going to be very dependent upon the condition, the soul condition of people who can stay running it while we're not there. And that's going to be the tricky thing. Is what we've found in the past is that many people, if they don't have the right condition, they get arrogant, and they mislead people with truth, and then on top of that, they have a tendency to take from the organisation rather than giving to it. So at the moment, actually, this organisation has no paid employees at all. So even all the directors, they're giving all of their time, which is full time. So you're talking, so there's 3 directors at the moment, and this is something also that you can donate to us.
Can I just mention on the donating, if you go to Gosway.net, there's each quarter now we're publishing kind of what our expenses have been and what projects you might like to support specifically and how to do that, and
what projects are on hold, what projects are actually going,
that kind of thing.
And the expenses, but those expenses don't include paying the people running it. Yeah. So Eloisa, she's changed the last name to Sparks. Isn't that a great last name? And so it's Eloisa Sparks is one of the directors. She's the managing director at the moment. And then there's the person you know as Cornelius, right? His actual name in this life is David Walsh, right? You could say he's the building director, the construction director of the company, and he's managing all the building projects that we're doing. And then we've got Phoebe Bruce is her name. Hello, Phoebe, if you're listening to this. They're listening to all the recordings each week, so I'm sure they'll hear that. Phoebe is like the sharing director. She's focusing her attention on sort of background management and sharing, online sharing. So almost every post that God's Way produces that you get, if you subscribe, you'll get a post fairly regularly. And she prepares all of those, does all of that work. It's quite a lot of work she does in that regard. And the 3 of them together are, learning how to manage, because none of them have managed an organisation in their life. Unlike myself, where I've managed many organisations in my life, they haven't. And so they're learning how to do it, and they're brave, as well as, have a good relationship with God as well. So those 3 directors, they don't get paid. So the only way that they can actually do it full time is by receiving donations from people. So they trust that they're living the same way Mary and I are living, actually. They're just trusting that they receive donations from people. Sometimes Mary and I do donate to them. If we have enough donations of our own and they don't, we give them some funds as well. But lately they've become more self-sufficient in the reception of donations. But they don't live on much, on the average. On the average, it's much the same as what Mary and I live on, which is around about 1,500 Australian dollars a month each. So for each person, which isn't very much. It's about 800 euros a month, something like that.
Jane, it's 3 o'clock, just so you know.
Yep. All right. So that's the God's Way organisation in Australia. That's sort of independent, really, of Mary and I and what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is we're trying to go around the world now and just share truth, share more truth, share truth, and have face-to-face, not tech interactions, but face-to-face interactions with people, so we can share more truth. And so that's our focus. Our focus is now changed a bit because we've set this up now and it's running quite smoothly. And so now we want to get back to the focus of sharing truth with people. So our goals are to go around the world quite regularly, of course, based on the donations we receive. We're hoping to do it once a year is the goal. But as you can see, every time we need to hire a venue and we need to hire accommodation, and we need to hire getting there, and flights and everything, the costs rack up. And in this particular trip, we're doing 14. Is it? Events? 15 events.
Formal events.
15 formal events, and every one of those events has similar cost to this. So by the time you add it up, you can see you chew up the funds. And we sort of feel like in the long run, it'd be better to have those funds go to a centre, like a centre somewhere, rather than sort of go out into the world and not ever really come back, you know.
Yeah. And we, you know, it would be great to give everyone the opportunity to be a part of building those centres.
Yeah.
When you have a meeting there, to actually come and contribute to that land
and share
donate
in the process
yourself,
and learn.
your resources in that way, to help sort of creating something lasting.
So the purpose of God's Way when we created it was actually to allow divine truth to just keep sharing and focus on sharing the truth in the world, and sort of God's Way sort of support the sharing. But the other focus was that there's educational programs that need to happen, like environmental educational process, you know, the education about love and humility and truth and
raising children
and all sorts of things.
Water resources.
Yeah, if you read the Constitution, you'll see it's a very wide scope Constitution, and we're hoping that, you know, that will happen over the course of the future. Of course, the main focus at this stage is the sharing, because without the sharing, the benefit of learning the truth is limited. Yeah. So Mary and I, which is Divine Truth, and so, you know, for us, our website, of course, which is Mary and I don't get to change it very much at the moment, unfortunately, is divinetruth.com. And up until now, I've been totally responsible for doing all the tech. So, and I can't see that changing until I find a person who's passionate about God and passionate about the truth, but also understands tech to the degree, hopefully, that I do. I've had I'm 60 now, and I started in tech when I was 17. Way back before you guys, probably many of you would have even known about the IBM PC and all that, way back before then even. And I've had lots of engineering experience in technology, so as well as running companies, as well as property development and other things like that. So I've got plenty of experience in these things, and what I really need is to be able to have somebody who has a similar sort of desire to get that experience that can take over a lot of the tech from me, so that we're more available to share. But we don't know when that will occur. But up until that time, I'll be doing that. And so when I say I'll be doing it the least amount I possibly can, because we want to spend more time sharing with people. Yeah. So one of the issues we do face when we're travelling is that if we have the events too close together every week, I don't have enough time even to sort out the audio or anything. I've just got enough time to strip it off, back it up, and then we're on to the next event. And so I don't even have enough time to edit it and put it up. And so in future, what we're hoping next year and following years is that we'll sort of back off on how often we're doing it. So we've got a sort of a week in between where I can do all of those things and get the material up. Because without getting the material up, it only benefits you. But if I can get the material up, it benefits, you know, thousands of people. And thank you to the guys who are doing some video recording and everything, because that means that I don't have to do it. Right?
And we don't have to bring all the gear.
I don't have to bring all that gear and everything, because it's a major nightmare, trust me, travelling with video equipment all over the world as well as our audio equipment, which is already 2 bags full. And you know, to have those people do it, which is a great thing. So thank you guys for doing it here. We had some people doing it in Brussels as well. And we don't know who's going to do it in the future, because it's just sort of like ad hoc happens. And when they share, you know, so you end up with all these bootleg copies, I suppose you'd call them, of these events. And who knows where they're going to be? We don't know. In the end, we're asking the people to give us the sort of recordings and everything. But we can't edit them. We haven't got time to, and all that jazz. So we found ourselves getting buried in editing, and we had no time for sharing. So Mary and I are capable of editing and everything, but the net result was when the more we edited, the less we shared, and that was the opposite of what we wanted to do. So.
And we both really feel that our main purpose on earth, apart from regaining our connection with our soul and God, is to share with people, in person.
Yeah.
And the more we can do that, then hopefully the more benefit there will be.
Yeah. Ben, you want to ask? Just Mike, if we can.
Many people ask me how we broadcast the videos.
Yes.
Maybe we could write it down.
Sure.
It's.
Do you want to come up and just write it down?
Yeah.
Gott und die Welt. It's God and the
God and the world. Yeah. In German.
Yeah, in German.
Yeah. God and the world in
God
German.
and die
That's
und
it.
Welt.
Good. There you go. Yeah. Okay.
On YouTube, I'm sorry.
Oh, and YouTube. Is there a YouTube particular channel?
That is the channel.
Oh, that is the
That's
YouTube.
yeah, this is.
That is a YouTube channel. Emma?
The talks from last weekend are on a different channel.
Yes.
So I could.
So last weekend was?
It's at Exposure.
At Exposure.
3569.
3569.
And I'm hoping to be able to send more video recordings to go on
To that one as well.
So, yes.
Yeah. Good idea. Yep. So that's what's happening at the moment. Now, we have no control over those things, obviously, Mary and I. The only place we have it is in DivineTruth.com. We don't have any Facebook, we don't have any other thing. It's DivineTruth.com or YouTube, our YouTube channels. But as I said, very dependent on the time I have, and as you can imagine, I don't have a lot of it. So, it just depends on when I get a bit of time to upload things or whatever. If you get to these other places, you'll be able to probably get them quicker than you'll get them from me. So our goal, of course, is eventually to have a little team that actually does it for us and does all the sharing part for us. So Mary and I can just spend our time teaching and somebody else captures it and shares it and so forth. But as you can imagine, when you're traveling around, every new person you add to the travel adds to the cost. And so it can become very expensive having a little team with you. And so unless that, we get those kind of donations that allow for that, we really can't do it up until then. So at the moment, we're limited to how we are, mostly because there's a limitation of funds and people in terms of, helping out, or who are in a good condition, who don't argue with me about things. And the temptation to argue comes from the fight with the truth, right? And so, we find quite a lot that people say they want to help, but then they start arguing with me, and I don't have the tolerance for that.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. I used to have the tolerance for that, but not anymore.
Is there another possibility to support you, not only with the donation, but in another way in Europe?
It's difficult at the moment to remotely support us. Obviously, one way is to translate material.
Ah, great.
Because of course, people who are hearing this today, it's all in English, isn't it? And it'd be nice if there was some subtitles in German or subtitles in French or whatever, wouldn't it? Because that way more people can. So that's one way that a remote help can be. But we also found that you've got to be fairly connected to the meaning of what we say in order to subtitle what we say. So, and that requires some emotional and development with God as well. And it's very hard for Mary and I to correct anything you do wrong, because to do that we would have to know the language, and you know what I mean. So it requires a lot of sincerity as well to not change things and so forth. But that's one way that can help practically. There's probably other ways, and that is, the biggest practical way to help is to receive more love.
You know, the more love you receive, the more you'll be a reflection of that love in your life. And then people ask, where did you hear that from? And, you know, why did you do that? And you can refer to the truth to them. And that's like spreads them. If people see you becoming more unloving or more arrogant, then of course, you know, it's not going to spread then, is it? So you know, that's the biggest way to help. And then there are some secondary practical ways to help. But until we get a centre in Europe, it's going to be harder to help remotely when it's like 13,000 kilometres away. And what I find too is that most of the internet now is focused towards downloading things, speed-wise. You know, it's all focused towards downloading things. So uploading things, which is what we need to do to get material back to Australia while we're travelling and all that kind of stuff, it's very, very slow. Like in here in Israel, we're getting like 100 kilobit uploads, which means that if I'm recording 150 gigabytes of data, just audio, and if it was video, it would be more like 2 terabytes of data over 3 days. It would take forever, literally like 6 months to upload the data. So there's practical limitations of how much can be done remotely, is what we've found. So a lot of the work will need to be done on site. Okay. And we're hoping in the future that, like, when we come to Europe, for example, and if we came to a God's Way Centre in Europe, there'd be a little editing team in Europe that follows around while we're in Europe, and then they go back to the God's Way Centre, and then they edit all that material and get it all out from that God's Way Centre. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then we go, say, to England or to the US or something, and the same thing happens. That's our goal in the long run, but I can't see that happening in the next 5 years. It'll be more like the next 10 or more years that those kind of things will probably happen.
It really depends on the changes that individuals make.
That's right.
Yeah. It could happen quicker.
Yeah. And we're not trying to, with you guys, as you can see, we're not trying to say everything's going to be easy making these changes. It's not going to be easy making these changes. It's going to require dedication. It's going to require heart, like passion, heart for it. And so, obviously, developing the heart for it is part of the issue, isn't it? Yeah. So, but when it comes to sharing divine truth, fundamentally in the spirit world, everybody who hears it shares it. And so this is a part of the issue too, becoming brave enough to share it in your own life. Many of you we know listen, and you have your private listening, and you go, "Oh, it's wonderful, and I like it," but you're very afraid of sharing it in public because of course it means potential attack, and people will accuse you of being in a cult and all these other things, and none of that's true. Of course, Mary and I don't run a cult. We're not. It'd be too much hard work to run a cult. It's already enough hard work just going around sharing with people the truth that are running one. But the average person will accuse you of that just because I'm saying I'm Jesus, right? These kind of problems are not going to go away soon, and you need to have some bravery and let the truth affect your heart, and as it affects your heart, then you will want to share, and then the more you want to share, sometimes you want to help us share, but sometimes you just share yourself, like I'll put this together and share that, and I'll put this together and share that kind of thing. Any little bit of sharing helps. So this is why we encourage you while you're here to take your own recordings, and don't be afraid of sharing them. I know there's private things that are said here sometimes, but we don't care. And we're trying to teach you not to care either. Nothing's really private anyway. At the end of the day, every spirit knows exactly what you're doing. So why try and keep it private? It's not really much point to that. So what we want to do is encourage you to share the truth that you learn. And sometimes you feel not qualified, or sometimes you feel like, I'm not in a good enough space myself. Well, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, who knows the benefit from you sharing the truth? And you might find, all I need to do is just share some material here, or this is what I've learnt, or whatever. Yeah. You want to ask?
if I understand you correctly, then we can share, filter it through our creation as well. Like, I don't know, writing something.
Exactly. You don't need to ask us. Some people feel they need to ask us, but you don't need to ask us. Everything we produce is in public domain. You can just grab it and share it. Also, anything that you produce, obviously, just be careful, because make sure it is the proper understanding of truth. Because if you share something that's not the proper understanding of truth, then Mary and I are going to need to correct it at some point, right? But it's better if you know it's the proper understanding of truth, even if it's just a description of the spheres or a description of what happens when you progress, or just, it can be minor things, but you never know who is going to be attracted and to what you share, and also how you share. Some people might share online, but to my mind, sharing in person is often much more effective. So, but that requires bravery too, doesn't it? Yeah. So we come to M and then up the back to C.
I'm going to most of the talks and taking audio recordings, and I thought if anybody would like to be on my list to receive them, if they want to tick on the sign-in sheet, and then I can add them to the list, and I send them out usually the evening of the talk.
Yeah, and that assumes that your sign-in sheet has the right email address, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So some of you haven't put the right email address in, so you just make sure that's the right email address when you check that sign-in sheet. So eventually what we're hoping to do is that many of you just share because you want to share, and like all that. This is the way things grow naturally, not through some organised structure, but rather through people's passion, desiring to share it.
And keep in mind the principles of free will. See how Emma asked you, tell me if you want it, rather than just saying, oh, I'm sending it to everyone.
Yeah, don't force anybody to receive anything. Makes sense? And by the way, if you have to leave now,
thank you.
Feel comfortable?
See you.
See you later. See you later. Yeah. Feel comfortable leaving at any time. I'm just explaining what we're doing, that's all. And so, obviously for Mary and I, our goal now is to be able to share, have more time sharing is the goal. So we want to try to do 4 to 4.5 months overseas. Generally, and about a couple of months or 6 weeks in Australia is our goal, and then we'll probably have 6 weeks home, because we need to also keep things going where we are and share with those people as well.
6 months, you mean?
6 months, sorry.
You said 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 months. And so we want to obviously sort of have this sort of regular sharing that's going on, and we feel the more we can share, and then you've got more material to share, and then you can share, and then more people will hear, and if more people hear, more people might respond, and if more people respond, then there'll be improvements in the general condition of the world if more people respond to the truth.
How have you found it being in person versus watching? Some of it's the first time.
Yeah. So it's a bit different in person, isn't it? When you're watching it on the telly, you sort of go, I can zone out of that. I can zone out of that. But when you're in person, it's sort of different. And also there's spirits here that you don't feel when you're watching on telly. Either. So obviously
the interaction with the spirits of the others.
That's right, and you often see the interactions occurring and everything. And you can feel them, can't you, in the moment too. So that often has a powerful effect, Also, it can be quite frustrating because you take home with you a group of spirits who want to stop you. So you've got to watch that when you leave here too, by the way, because there are groups of spirits who hang around Mary and I just waiting to influence you badly, right? So there's a negative influence also following us around at times. Right?
The antidote to that is to have character, have your moral.
But anyway, there may have been spirits around that didn't like it that much too.
Of course, there's many spirits who come to our events and they don't like what I'm saying.
Yeah. But even Nicholas is saying, even around you in general.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, and they'll take the opportunity at times to influence you badly. Stephen, you wanted to?
Yeah, I was just going to ask: is there any other recommended material to read besides Through the Mist?
Paget messages.
Okay, thank you.
I feel reading the Paget messages is a must. Is what I feel. Now, Mary and I do have downloadable Paget messages on the website, but we don't actually produce the Paget messages books. Now, a problem that I see happening is that some of the people who are producing the books are actually modifying the messages.
Oh no.
So that is a bit of a problem, and that's something that we feel if we had a little team that could actually get the original messages and actually republish those rather than modifying them. And when I say modifying, they're leaving paragraphs out and mostly leaving things out, but sometimes changing words, but mostly leaving things out. And we don't agree with that. We want them to be the original. But unfortunately, I did a recent search just the other day for some original ones, which were called Angelic Revelations of Divine Truth, written in 1960 and 50s, published by, originally by Dr. Sloan, who was one of Paget's friends. But I found it very hard to find an original copy, unfortunately. So now if you do buy them, you'll find that some of them been modified, and they also have these little additional things because they're upset with me. They're trying to put little additional messages in that Jesus is still in heaven and all these other things as well. So they're trying to, some of them even tried to have a meeting with me a few months ago, thinking that because I hadn't spent much time sharing in the last few years that I must have changed my mind. Things like that. And so,
but on the website you're going to find.
But on our website you'll find them, but unfortunately they're in PDF form. I suppose if you have a PDF reader or some kind of thing, you could use that for reading them. And they are the originals. As much as we're able to do. So I'd recommend reading them for sure. And particularly focus on the messages that talk about God, love, truth, faith. There's a whole heap of messages that are more about spirit interactions, which are quite fascinating, but the ones that are based on faith, truth, love, God, laws, these are the messages that are, powerful messages for your soul. The other messages are interesting and also illustrate a lot of spirit interactions, which in a very interesting manner. So they're worth reading, but they're not focused on those fundamental truths. Judas?
That's what I say. You recommended about a year ago or so to 3 things, and one of them was to read the Paget messages every morning after waking up.
Yeah.
And I just read just a little paragraph.
Yeah.
But I found it very, very beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've read them in total probably 30 times or more now. Each time I read them, because we have a memory of, writing them, and there's things in there that I go, it's a pity you didn't write exactly what we meant, but for the most part, they're quite accurate, and also when it comes to God's love and truth, and when it comes to sin, they won't mislead you. They're accurate in that regard. Yeah. Thanks. Okay.
Isn't there a commented version online?
Not by me, no. If there is a commented version, I'd mistrust comments.
By Jesus and Mary, it says.
Sorry?
Not by
us. It says commented by Jesus and Mary.
Yeah, not us.
A kind of writing by email exchange.
On our website?
No.
No, that's not us.
No. Now, somebody might have put together some of our comments that we've published in other things about the messages and put them on there, but I don't know. And we can't control what other people do.
Actually, it says that there is an email exchange, but it's not really specified if it's you or Jesus and Mary. And then Mary being happy to have a say, commenting on those things finally as she couldn't while.
No, that's not me.
That's not the one.
No, that's not me.
No. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of people who feel attached to the Paget messages, my being on earth is very challenging as an idea to them, right? And so they are trying to do their best to discredit me while at the same time promote the messages. Yeah. Which I find very interesting given they're my messages.
But in any case, why spend time discrediting people when you can just promote truth?
When you can just promote truth, yeah.
I mean, so I think in one of the messages you said that your return will be in spirit, as at that time you hadn't found out how to get reborn.
Correct.
And
the truth is a progressive thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But we as humans very much like to stick to the written things and only see this as
correct. Well, really, many people who are reading the Paget messages are treating them like the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you know the Christians are saying this is the Bible, this is the only word of God. There's no other word of God. There's no, you know, it's like an infinite God made a limited book, and that's good. Is the general feeling. Yeah, and then of course the people who are doing this with the Paget messages are fundamentally doing the same thing. They're basically saying it's a limited book, limited by, you know, and it's a full truth, and it's not. Obviously, it's very clear if you read the Paget messages actually that we weren't that happy with how much truth we shared in the messages. We felt there was a lot more truth to share, and we never got to share it. So it's very clear if you read the Paget messages that is true. The issue that the people who sort of guard the Paget messages have with me is that they are very angry about me claiming that I'm Jesus. Right? So they feel that I'm undermining the messages even by mentioning them. But the Paget messages are a very good resource to have more connection with truth. Those of you who come from a Christian background will recognize some of the teachings that eventually got distorted in Christianity in the messages as well. So you'll find them quite interesting as well as beneficial. But your development will determine your understanding of them. The more love you have, the more you'll understand them. And we also made that quite clear when we gave the messages to Ned, our friend, James Paget, we call him Ned. And he, when we gave him the messages, we made it quite clear to him that his understanding of them would depend upon his soul condition. And I'd like to say the same to you. Your understanding of them will depend upon your soul condition. Besides that, so obviously one of the things we want to do too is to actually have a little publishing area of Divine Truth that gets all this spiritual material together and republishes it, because a lot of it is going out of print and out of publication. For lots of different reasons. There's not a lot of interest in it around the world generally. And also, it'll be nice to put it in different languages, because I think the Paget messages currently are in 12 languages from memory, but again, it's very dependent upon the soul condition of the individuals who did the translation as to how effective those translations are.
Just wanted to say, for the German-speaking people, there's a really readable, I find, translation of Through the Mists by Robert James Lees. It's called Reise in die Unsterblichkeit, all 3 parts. And of course, it helps to watch Mary's group along with it, the book group.
Yeah. Now, Through the Mists is interesting because a lot of people believe that they were written by divine love spirits, but they weren't. And a lot of people were quite shocked to hear that. That none of the spirits who were involved in writing Through the Mist were actually on the divine love path. They are now, but they weren't then.
But it gives you very beautiful depiction of how Gospels work and the construction of the spirit world and all of those things.
They are very accurate, particularly the first 2 are very accurate. By the time it gets to the 3rd one and starts talking about my life, it starts to become very inaccurate. So just bear that in mind.
In one of the videos, you read an introduction of a book you were writing.
Yeah.
I never found it, and
well, I haven't published it. Mary and I would like to write some books, but we don't have the time at the moment to do such a thing. And it's unlikely we'll get the time for the next few years. but we would love to do it because it, you know, we've got sort of a unique, you know, we've had 2,000 years of experience with God's Way, and we've got a unique perspective being that we were the ones who discovered it. So there's a lot of things we can share in that process that we haven't shared yet, and it would be lovely to be able to share it. But unfortunately, there's a limited amount of time of what we have available sharing, and then also Mary and I need to focus on growing ourselves. And in a lot of ways, we've neglected that, particularly in the last 10 years. So one of our focal points now is making sure we continue our own progress. And some of you ask questions of why am I looking older and more unwell, and what was the general feeling of balding and generally getting older. Well, a lot of that is because of lack of self-love issues that I'm now working through. And so it's going to take us time. Mary and I both have quite a lot of self-love issues because both of us have been heavily attacked since our birth on earth this lifetime. So it's like it's been a very abusive environment spiritually that we've grown up in. And so we're learning, we're still learning how to love ourselves. And in the process of doing that, we'll get more closer to our soul, and our soul will be able to, the love from our soul will help us continue to change in a positive way. At the moment, there's not a lot of love from our soul that we're allowing to our bodies at the moment because of our minds. Mary and I have both been quite intellectually dominant in our lives, and we're learning we need to go through the experience of letting go of that dominance in order for our soul to properly connect. And I've been aware of that for the last 4 or 5 years, that I need to take strong action in that regard. But it does mean that I need to have alone time to do it. And that doesn't give me a lot of time to do other things like write books or do videos or those kind of things.
Yeah, I have another dream as well, to just put together books on kind of like topics or, because Jesus in particular has presented on lots of faith in so many different ways. And he did a series of talks at home that I don't know if there were some bootleg copies that maybe got onto Spotify. I don't know if they're still there, but really how to connect to God. You took a group through this process for about a year, and
we've been teaching every week for the last 5 years as well.
It was very powerful kind of talk, and I would love to kind of put that in book form as well. Yeah, without kind of comments and tidying up the language a bit. So
we have a lot of backlog of material that obviously hasn't been shared because we haven't had the time to share it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because I like to talk to people about divine truth.
Yeah.
And one of the things I hear often is I like to read more.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
We actually feel that reading is more effective than watching a video. And the reason why is because reading requires more concentration, and it also requires more peace and quiet. And as a result, you can get more inspired. So one of our major goals is to get away from videos actually and go more to producing books that people can read. And how to publish those books, well, that's the question in itself. But we would like to do that. But again, that requires Mary and I having the time to write them and to formulate them and write them. Originally, the plans of the 14, because remember there were 14 of us who came here. Of the others, there's only really, one other who is consciously connecting to God's way, other than us two, which is Cornelius. And then the others are in various states of rage about the whole thing. But the original intention was some of them who are experts, far better than us at writing and other things like that. They have a natural aptitude to it. Mary and I are more, you'd call us like the managers, I suppose. The structural organisation is our forte. And some of the others of 14 have specific skills. And originally the intention was that they would be using those skills by now, but of course, it's all to do with their will. So, I don't know how long it's going to take for their will to be exercised. And it may not be exercised ever, so it means other people exercising there will eventually to put things together. And this is where something, so Mary and I want to, basically what we're trying to do is get enough time to share with you truths, and then on top of that we want to get enough time where we can start writing some things so that those things can be more in permanent form. This was something I didn't do in the first century, and I think somebody asked me what do I regret from the first century. That's probably one, well, it's not really a regret, because but I wished in a way that more was written, you know. More, of course, the likelihood was that it was going to get distorted anyway, but it would have been good to have more written. Yeah.
There are there's transcripts, don't you?
Yeah, there are transcripts. There was a team doing transcripts, and some of you might have been involved in the team. I think Sunissa was at one point. But the trouble is the person who managed our team wasn't running it in a loving manner at the time, and then we changed it over to Kate running it, and myself and Kate had a lot of programs on that we would, one of them was books getting written, another one was changing the websites and other things like that Kate passed last year. Started last year now, and she was a great loss to our little program of trying to share more. She was a very good programmer, and on top of that she was very open to truth and loved the truth and passionate about it, and she was also very open to listening to my guidance with regard to technology, and she was a great help. But she's in the second sphere of the spirit world at the moment, and she's enjoying her life there, so she doesn't sort of regret passing. But we often talk to her and say,
miss you.
Miss you. Yeah, miss you. Yeah. Stephen?
Do you ever have any contact with other spiritual leaders? Maybe like Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God? How do they treat you?
Every spiritual leader I've ever spoken to up until now has not liked me. So
generally they ignore us though. Nobody takes us seriously enough to.
Yeah. And there are many problems with teachings of different organisations on earth. And when we have a conversation, I start highlighting those problems, and of course they don't want to hear them. So there's fundamentally nobody really wants to talk to me about these matters, and it's interesting because my feeling is one of the most interesting things that we could do would be to have like a television show where it says the man who claims to be Jesus talking about religion or something like that. But the trouble is the spirits at the moment around us don't want us to do that because it will be way too logical and way too appealing. And they know that, so they're trying to, at the moment, there's an orchestrated attempt in the spirit world, and it's also a growing attempt on earth through influence to discredit Mary and myself as much as possible. Yeah. Which is to be expected. That happened in the first century for me as well, where, the Pharisees used to follow me around trying to discredit me with everybody all the time, which is eventually why we finished up having a conversation. But there's the trouble with truth, if you think about it as a trouble, is that it confronts error, and whenever error is confronted, people get emotional about it and they get really upset and angry. And it doesn't matter which spiritual leader you talk to on earth, the majority of them are really undeveloped when it comes to love and truth and humility, faith and truth with regard to their relationship with God. And as a result, they're constantly wanting to be in conflict with what we teach, whether they see a point in it or not sometimes. Yeah. Where would we next?
Charlotte?
Do you mind me answering these questions, guys? Charlotte?
If you need to go, you can go.
If you need to go. Yeah.
I often recommend the Secrets of the Universe talk as a beginner's video.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that, or would you recommend to just say the channel and the people can watch whatever they like?
Well, it's hard, isn't it? Because the Secrets of the Universe does cover quite a lot of things in 2 days, doesn't it? That helps give people a bit of an introduction. The problem is the production of it's very poor, You know, this is a problem we have with a lot of what we produce. I have actually thought about tearing the whole thing down and not having anything shared, but that's probably not going to be good either. So we do feel at some point in the future we'll do more polished sort of presentations about some of those things. But at this stage, what's there is there. And we just got to let it do its thing. You'll have noticed that I'm a lot less pandering to audiences than your audience compared to previous audience. And that's because Mary and I are growing, right? We're changing and getting more in harmony with God's love in that regard. So the trouble for a lot of people who have heard our old material is they think we're still those people. And so when they come along, they feel quite sort of confronted. So sometimes the old material causes us grief in the sense of, you know, people have an expectation when they come that's not the expectation we meet. Yeah. Ben?
I would like to see a documentary where the Jews is shown, you know, so like TV or.
Yeah, almost every person. Almost every person who has made a documentary with us in the past has come from a very antagonistic point, and so what they're doing is they're coming from an attacking block. They want to pull us down, and really what they want is the money shot, which is me saying I'm Jesus, and then they want to criticise that, and that's what we've found for the most part. There's been a couple that are not like that, but none of them who have made documentaries. Not more. Just we've had a couple of media people who have been TV segments, I suppose you call it, that were live, which is what I prefer, live. But if it's somebody we're going to work with a documentary that's pre-recorded, it's going to have to be someone we trust, because most people are untrustworthy, and they keep modifying things we say, and they put it out. Like purposely pull it out of context to almost make it turn into the opposite thing that I've said sometimes. And it's very frustrating to spend all that time. And in fact, in some cases, like there was one channel that they did almost like 4 days straight of filming. Must have cost them thousands of dollars. They had a guy with a camera, a couple, guy with a sound thing as well. And it must have cost them a mint to do it. And they didn't use any of the material at all because it was all too convincing. So they just, instead what they do is they invent a story, which a lot of the media have actually done. It's really quite interesting what they do. They've invented stories in order to make it look like a certain thing that they want it to look like. And every media person who comes to talk to me directly finds me way too reasonable, far more reasonable than what they're expecting, right? And so, and too sane as well. They don't want sort of me to be insane. Yeah. So when they find a person who's saner than what they're expecting, they feel, you can feel the disappointment in them because they were going to get the money shots through the insanity, right? And so when I'm too sane, when I'm too reasonable, and also kind and everything and considerate of them, they go, well, now there's no money here for us. And so some of them had to go away and create a completely different story. And there's one person in particular who did it right at the beginning, and that story just keeps getting repeated over and over again. Yeah.
So do they use the thing to make it look like you're speaking? Well,
at the moment, there's no chat GP thing of making out on speaking thing, but it wouldn't surprise me that somebody does it, you know what I mean, where there's deep fakes and whatever else. And this is the beauty of bootleg copies, is it's hard to fake them when you do it sort of not organised, but when it comes to the organised stuff, yeah. By the way, I disagree completely with artificial intelligence, almost completely, I should say, for lots of different reasons and that are connected with God's reasons. But I won't go into that here. But the problem with faking something is if you can't tell it's real, then how can you trust it? And if it's a machine, how can you trust that it's not being influenced by the programmer of the machine in some way or another?
Well, it has.
And it has, yeah. I've been a programmer in my life. I know what it's like when you're programming, and I know also how much your own emotional injuries affect the program you make. And this is a problem that most people are not considering. And so what I see with regard to a lot of artificial intelligence is if they apply it to divine truth, it's going to get turned into a mess. Yeah, which is obviously not something I'd like to see. Franz, and then
I mean, how to discriminate it is similar to how to discriminate with the media reporting. So, like, if you develop your feeling and direct consciousness and sincerity, so to just feel,
correct.
And also feel like, is
and
this,
if you're connected to God, you will start
exactly.
feeling something's off here.
Yeah. Or is this politician speaking the truth, or does it fit? Yeah, so you really get able to feel.
It's like the superpower God gave everyone.
Yeah.
It's just live in your soul. You detect lies really easily.
Very
Yeah, it's a serious problem that we're going to face on Earth, that how much of the information you're actually hearing is actually true. You know, already a lot of it's not true. Already a lot of it's not true. And we find in our personal life that almost everything the media has said, probably 98% of it, not true. You know, and yet it's everybody who listens thinks it's true. And many of you even think some of the things being said are true. And then when I say, well, that's not true either, and that's not true either, and oh, okay, you know, sometimes it's not quite obvious what isn't true and what is, and you know, I see the media in particular is a power tool that is used by a few people to control the thoughts of the majority. At the moment, that's how it's being used, and it's a very destructive way of having media. If the media was more honest, it would be different. But unfortunately, the media, like many other people, are self-motivated. In other words, they're self-motivated, selfishly motivated. Often we've met many of them. Remember, hundreds of them, and the majority of them we're finding have their own goals of being popular, their own goals of being well known, liked. You know, one media fellow said, "I've got 600,000 followers. How many have you got?" I don't know if I said 2 or something, but as if that makes any difference to what I'm speaking is truth or not. But you know, this is how the media, many of the media want that notoriety. They want that. They want the adulation of many, and so quite often their motives are distorted when it comes to sharing truth. That's what we've found.
I remember a documentary where there was a guy and he was attacking you quite a lot.
Yeah.
And you said to him that you can feel that at some point he's going to change his mind.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if he already did that.
Oh, no, I was referring to when he hit the spirit world. Yeah, he's not going to change his mind on Earth. No, but I know that he will in the spirit world. He'll actually go through a lot of regret, actually, because he actually started as a minister. He was a Uniting Church minister, and he got involved in the media to do what's called cult exposés, and so that was his purpose of meeting us. And he spent weeks with us, didn't he? Stayed in my home actually for a few days, even, and it was just really interesting. Like, you know, in the end, he started getting more and more attacking, but on screen only. So he wanted he wanted the people who were watching to see that he didn't agree with me, and so, but off screen he was like asking me questions about this and asking me questions about that. But in the end, like, I could see it was all a manipulation. You know?
It's very duplicitous.
Very duplicitous, yeah. Very deceitful. And deceitful to his audience, because actually the way he was treating us off camera was not the same way he was treating us on camera. And so I pointed that out to him. Of course, he got angry about that and then started attacking more. And then, you know, and I said to him, yeah, at some point in the future, you're going to regret your choices here. You know? And he will. You know, there's me. Like I said, the people who killed me regret their choices. They regretted their choices in the end. Who else had their hand up? No? All right, now I wanted to share a bit more about our plans. So our plans are that we would like to come back to Europe, and we want to come back regularly. But of course, donations is our main thing that prevents us from coming back. So we're trying to also reduce the costs. The problem with visiting many sites is that the costs of visiting the sites are quite steep. And also some places like Austria here is quite expensive actually to live here, isn't it? See you guys. And quite expensive and everything. So what we would like to do is try to find some ways of sort of doing a cheap version of getting here.
Go budget next.
Go budget, sort of getting here. Not change a lot, because the more we change, the more tiring it is.
And there's lots of reasons.
Our general process in these weeks are travel Monday or Tuesday. So today is our last day here. Normally, if this was a normal week for the rest of the trip, it'd be tomorrow we're traveling.
No, tomorrow packing.
Sorry, tomorrow packing.
Tuesday.
Tuesday traveling.
Yeah.
We get to the place Tuesday, in the evening. We've got to get all our food and check in and all these other things. Then we've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday we're seminar again. And you can imagine, obviously it's pretty tiring. You just travel, hardly any break at all, straight into the seminar again for 3 or 4 days straight. And then it also doesn't give us much time to socialise with you. We like to spend a bit of time and get to know you either. So we probably next time would like to change that a bit, where it's not so stressful and we're more in one place for a month, and then we have a big event where hundreds of people can come, and then possibility of having smaller things where people who can stick around and we can spend a bit of time with them over the coming months the weeks after that. Does that make sense? Before we move on. So that's our plans. At home, we're also trying to put together a studio at Phoebe's home. I mentioned Phoebe before. She's given us 2 rooms of her house because she has an internet connection that we don't have. And this internet connection will allow us to do online discussions with you guys. So we're hoping that when we're back in Australia, anybody here who has a little group, that we might be able to tee up a time where we have a couple of hours online, where we can communicate from that studio to you guys. It's going to require a bit of tech to be set up and so forth, but we're hoping the next time we get back to Australia that we'll be able to set up that tech and get that operational.
So that'll be based on your desire and you guys, getting in touch and driving that, and we're feeling you're sincere that you want to kind of practice this stuff and we want to help you.
And we're thinking we'll record it and it'll just go straight online type of thing. So there's no. We feel with almost everything we do that it's good to record it, because then more people benefit rather than just a few. And so that's what we're trying to do. But as I said, the sharing of it is where things are falling down at the moment because of the lack of time. So anyway, that's our goals for the future. We'll see whether they come about. we don't know, of course. But that's what we're hoping to do. So we're hoping at some point we'll see you guys in the future. Never know. Some of you not, maybe. Some of you yes. Depends on your sin a bit, doesn't it? It depends how. If you don't mind your sin being confronted, then I'm sure we'll see each other in the future. If you feel that fight between truth and error and go, I don't want my error gone, then maybe we won't see each other so often.
It's been a pleasure though. It's
Yeah.
been a pleasure to meet so many new ones and see old faces, and thank you for your participation.
And hopefully you've, if not enjoyed yourself, at least learned something. And we would also like to thank the people who've been involved in organising. So,
thank some of you looked for venues that we didn't end up using, so in your own countries and stuff. I know in Poland and Germany, different people did that. I really appreciate that. I wanted to go everywhere, but we'd be travelling for the next 3 years. So thank you for that. And
also a lot of times we go, okay, there's these options for later, that are possible.
We'll find better ones.
Hopefully.
Well, and also you come and you have the experience, you get a bit of a sense of what might work better and not. And
at the moment, we're looking for venues in Porto in Portugal where there's like 250 seats and big enough to have almost everybody in Europe come to one location.
Would you guys come to Portugal if we were in Portugal next year?
Yes.
Elsie, definitely.
So we're also on this trip looking at options for the next trip in terms of what's the best course of action. And what we're finding is that some places are very expensive to do things. Belgium was very expensive to venue-wise. Here in Austria, very expensive to live. Places like Portugal, cheaper to live and so forth.
Well, and hopefully affordable for everyone coming from all the regions in Europe to come. And also...
So we're trying to balance that. And
better for us to do less stops. There's less airline usage, there's less wastage of even just the stuff we buy and all those things.
And so that's what we'll probably try to do next time we come.
We'll try that out. We'll see how it goes, just experimenting at this stage of what's going to work.
We're experimenting with what works and what doesn't really.
And what works really for the participants, as well as ourselves. So.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you guys again in the future at some point. We look forward to seeing, in particular, your progress. That's the thing we'd like to see the most. And also developing your relationship with God. God wants you to have a relationship with her. She desires your love, and actually you don't know it, but she often desires your love more than you desire hers. She wants to know you. She knows you already, but she wants to know you on a personal level. And so if you can remember that in your future days and in terms of ask God for that love and desire that love in a sincere manner, then of course it's going to benefit you a lot for your future, but also you'll feel loved. And oftentimes people feel that for the first time in their life. Okay, so what's going to happen after this is Mary and I, we need to pack up our own gear. The reason why we do that is because we need to remember where it is next time we go to the new event. So there's not much you can do to help us to pack up the gear, but if you can make sure you take all of your personal possessions, and make sure you take your phones, because we have people leaving behind, so make sure you take those phones. And when it comes to any rubbish or anything like that, if you make sure all of that's out of the room as well, that'll help us with regards to the tidying up and the packing up.
And Alex and would you want to help with any of the other stuff? Yeah, you can let people know. And remember, Ben is going to let you know about Tuesday.
So remember, Ben's going to let you know about Tuesday. So those of you who want to come Tuesday, he's going to be the person to talk to.
The list for the videos from...
From Emma, so just outside it is you will find your name on a list.
Is it just at the back? Is it?
No, it's just outside. What if they put in? I think people have ticked already. What if they put A or something?
I've got a different column.
Oh, you've got a
next
column.
to the email.
Okay. So the arrangement will be there will be a column, and if you want to receive the videos, just put the tick in that column. The audio, sorry. The tick in the column next to your name.
I hope you enjoyed meeting each other as well.
See you later, guys.